And
We have to consent by clicking continue.
oh, is that new?
Yeah, you have to consent to being recorded.
Yeah, I didn't know there was like a button or whatever though.
Yep, it pops up and it's like the meeting's being recorded. Do you want to continue to be in the meeting?
Oh. And we're going to Marvel News Desk Patreon group. Awesome. I just say it out loud so that I feel good that I'm doing the right thing. One of these days, this is going out to like our kids' PTA or something, and it's not going to be good. One of these days. All right.
I'm
I think we
confirming that on
are.
Facebook we are on the correct group. How about that?
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Okay, thank you. All right, let's oh, by the way, do I sound okay? My podcasting mic is
Sound terrible. Horrible. Awful. No, you sound great.
thanks, Adam.
Man.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Well, then the podcasting mic is useless. It's in the car that my wife took to work, so
It is perfect.
awesome. Welcome back to Marvel News Desk, your best place to keep up with all the latest news, reviews, and speculation concerning Marvel films and TV shows. We are back with Rhiannon, Adam, myself. I'm Caleb, and here for another lovely Loki review episode.
Yep. Right off the top, this is my last episode of Marvel News Desk because I'm halfway through Sweet Tooth, and next week I will be starting Sweet Tooth News Desk. Thank you so much for the time you guys have afforded me these past 2 years, but it is now time for me to branch off and talk about Gus nonstop.
So, you've been enjoying the show, Adam? I know you like the
so it's so effing good, man. It's so good. It diverts from the comic significantly, but I mean, I liked Lock and Key too, and Lock and Key wasn't even close to what the comic was really. I love the comic. The comic's one of my favorite comics. The show is really good too.
So. Yeah. We have been so we started The Leftovers after we watched Watchmen. Mm-hmm. And we like it. It's just so like heavy that like there's just a lot of nights where we're like, hey, do you want to do a Leftovers? And it's like, no, I'm not in the mood for that. And so we have been trying to discipline ourselves to finish The Leftovers by saying that we cannot start Sweet Tooth until we have finished The Leftovers.
It's almost Disney-ish in a sense.
Oh yeah.
It's so good. It's so damn good. Hulu should. Whoever canned that at Hulu needs fired if they aren't already, man. That was the worst decision Hulu could have made. It's a dynamite show. Dynamite.
Wait, but it's already been canned, so
no, at Hulu. Hulu canned. They filmed the pilot with half the same cast.
Oh, okay.
In what, 2017 or something?
Okay. And then it's on Netflix now.
Yeah, it's on Netflix now. Okay. The first season. So it has one season left anyways. If
yeah.
That. Netflix says they have a 67% renewal rate, and it doesn't feel like they have a 67% renewal rate.
I'm sure we can get somebody on that statistic.
Also, that probably is all their shows. So like Spirit, the Spirit of Cimarron or whatever, like the kids animated show about a pony. That show's been renewed probably 7 times. Like there's a million seasons of all these crummy cartoons the kids watch. I'm sure they count every one of those renewals against one Daredevil, cancellation.
Or the Boss Baby or Bubble Guppies or whatever. What's the not Lululemon, the Coco Melon?
Yeah,
I think there's also like there's a bunch of BBC shows that they claim as Netflix exclusives because they, like Peaky Blinders is produced by somebody else or whatever, and they just like pay for it to be a Netflix exclusive, but
right.
They're going to keep making it not because Netflix says so.
Yeah, but that's totally it. You're like, well, you guys canceled Daredevil. And like, yes, but we renewed 5 different DreamWorks animation shows. Oh, okay, cool. That makes everything better. All right. It's kind of a not great news for week for news, I feel like.
By the way, that was a joke, everyone. That was a joke. We are not starting Sweet Tooth News Desk. Let's clear that up. I realize that I sound like Ben Stein most days, but that was a joke. Very sarcastic.
It does crack me up because sometimes we'll get, I mean, I haven't looked at reviews in forever, so I really don't care. But when I used to look at reviews, they'd be like, I don't know, that Adam guy seems to like not really enjoy himself or seems to be grumpy. And it's just like a mixture of your accent plus like a dry humor. And certain listeners
I
do
think
not
that's
get it.
accent, dry humor, and depression is what the concoction is. I believe that's what the concoction. Maybe not even dry humor, just Iowegian accent and depression. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, and you could tell that we weren't upset at all. We were like, okay, yeah, Adam's
See you, Adam.
Adam's
Yeah,
gone.
like,
Like
peace
if Adam
out.
were really leaving the
Smell you
show,
later.
we would actually be upset.
Next
So.
week we start up the podcast with a new co-host. And Adam jumps on the Zoom. He's like, "What the heck, guys?" We're like, "Oh, you weren't kidding? Sorry."
Saying, man, give to the Patreon and you'll see. We'll see. I might start my own Patreon now. You know, that's all the rage. Everyone's starting a Patreon. I'll just
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell I'll give you every month. Probably shit you don't want, but yeah.
Well, all you got to do is you got to save a bunch of old magazines, and then when a scoop comes out, write a note about that scoop, and then put it next to the old magazines.
That is
And-
exactly what I'm gonna do. Hey, that's what I have a problem with saving old magazines. I had to unsub from Entertainment Weekly, just because. What do? You read through them and recycle them.
Yeah.
Except I like felt guilty about recycling. What the hell do I do with 5 years of Bon Appetit? You know, I can't recycle them because they have all sorts of recipes, right?
If you save them long enough, they become like a collector's item. Like I have a friend that collects old, like super old cookbook and cooking magazines and stuff. But
well, if your friend is in the need of any Bon Appetits or Food and Wine from, let's say, August 2017 on, not quite vintage.
No,
quite.
you gotta hold on to
turn of
them.
the century.
You've got to hold on to them to the point that people think you have a problem, and then one more year.
Yeah.
Oof.
I mean, I think the problem, Adam, you've often said you're here for a good time and not a long time.
I'm here for a good
And
time,
the
man.
problem is you need the long time for the museum, the magazines.
That's the
to
crappy
become-
part. I know. It's
Yeah.
you can't hoard and invest with a good time.
This has actually been bothering me, and I'm not trying to pick on anyone specifically, but like there's this goofiness of like in a movie when someone kidnaps someone and they want to prove that it's like legit and it's happening now, they use today's paper because in the past you couldn't have had today's paper. But scoopers are using this to prove something in the past, but it doesn't work that way. Someone today can have old magazines. Somebody, like it works to prove the recency of something, not the age of something. And every time they do it, I'm like, that doesn't work the way you think it does. You pointing to your old comics there in the background?
No, my old newspapers.
Oh,
Right there. I have
Just
Mr.
a stack of old
President
ones.
Barack Obama signed something up there with his inauguration paper.
So yeah, if you had a bunch of papers from like Barack Obama's and you like spread them all out and then you put a note that was like, I know that Lady Loki appears in episode 2 of Loki, you could be like, see, I've known this since 2008 or 2006, whenever Obama was like, I've known this the whole time. No, that doesn't work that way.
I knew there was going to be Armor Wars and Ironheart November 3rd, 2008. Before even Iron Man was hot out in theaters.
Yeah.
Like straight to Armor Wars and Ironheart. Ironheart wasn't even a character yet.
Shouldn't even exist yet. But you have the magazines to prove it. How can we doubt you?
Can't. Wait, you guys doubt me in the first place?
Never.
Who doubts
Never.
the great and wonderful Wizard of Oz or whatever that line is?
Well, which is all to say, like, I do think the people that are doing that knew that stuff on those dates.
Absolutely.
It just, their logic isn't holding on that part.
Yes, correct. That was all
I'm
I was
lost. I
trying
don't
to
even
Which
know
is
what
a
the hell you guys are
great
talking
segue to
about right now.
Loki. No.
All right. So
Speaking of
something-
time shit that doesn't make sense, let's go.
So in the news this week, Vin Diesel did just
What
the
a
most
guy.
bizarre thing. So if you didn't see this, he was doing an interview for F9 with Adam's coworker, Brandon Davis.
Mhm.
And Brandon said, "Thanks for being on the interview. It was nice talking to you." And Vin Diesel's like, "Yeah, it was really good talking to you. I'm really excited about things. I'm excited to talk to you again. Maybe we'll talk later after Groot goes back to Planet X in Guardians 3." And it was like, oh, like it was not like
It
he
was
wasn't
insane.
digging for it. He just threw it out there because he wanted to. So yeah, apparently we're going to Planet X in Guardians 3. Do you think Marvel planned for Vin to say this, or was it just a spontaneous brain fart?
We talked about that. At what point is it spoil? I mean, is it spoiler? First of all, this is the type of situation I'm glad BD uploaded the full video because no, it's like almost unbelievable otherwise. Because he says right there the interview's done and Vin's just like dragging it out. It's like Planet X, tell Kevin, blah blah blah. And they're like, what the hell you doing, man? Like, you can't. Now you're gonna get us in trouble for what you said. Are they gonna fire? Have they fired anyone? They've probably fired that stunt performer from She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess because whatever. Because why did you do that on your personal Facebook page? I don't know. They're not gonna fire Vin Diesel, right?
Right.
For saying Planet X, we don't. He didn't even say if it was Guardians 3 either. He didn't say if it was a Groot spinoff. He didn't say if it was the I Am Groot minis
Or the holiday special, maybe.
or the holiday special. I'll take any of them. You know, we don't even know if Vin's, so it was that confirmation Vin's voicing Groot and I Am Groot because he already did Baby Groot. If it's an animated series, and it's produced by Marvel Studios, it just kind of makes sense to keep Vin on board.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just seems not like a fireable offense. If Mark Ruffalo can accidentally stream the first 10 minutes of Thor Ragnarok, and this ties into the other Sony marketing stuff we're talking about. It's
we'll get to that in a second. Yeah.
They've built this thing where you believe every single thing is intentional, and it's not. We always go back to the callbacks or the throwback. There's only so many ways you can frame a scene, guys. There's only so many ways a person can hold a shield or a person can pat someone on the shoulder. Not everything has to be. Callbacks would be what? I can do this all day. Or callbacks would be, what else does he say?
On your left.
On your left. That would probably be a callback.
Or
I don't know.
Everyone recently believes... the Loki one where there's like there's a woman in the background. She has brunette hair. It's somewhat like an old hairstyle. Yeah,
Peggy Carter.
Must be like... Peggy Carter.
Sure. Okay. Yes. Loki references Agent Carter Easter egg or some bullshit like that. I'm sure that's a headline somewhere. I don't even remember what the hell we were talking about now.
Rhiannon, do you have thoughts on Planet X or any news here for Guardians?
No, but I do agree with that. I mean, there is a point where we do have to remember that these people are human, and no matter how much Marvel makes people scared to say things, like Vin doesn't seem like the type of guy that gets scared of much. So, it probably was just a slip.
Yeah.
By the way, if you think I'm a sleepy person on the mic, go listen to him because you can hear what the hell he said. Sounds like friggin' Rocky Balboa. Adrian.
I don't know. I almost think it's on purpose. So there's a really good THR piece right now out about Asad Ayaz, I think is his name. He's the head marketing guy at Marvel.
Disney Studios.
Yeah, well, right, Disney Studios. So he does all the Marvel films and TV shows and stuff as well. And he just he talks about how they plan out pretty carefully when they reveal information, down to things like with Black Widow. They talked about, well, let's start with a black color palette early on in the trailers and posters, and then move to a white color palette late. They think about a ton of this stuff. I just don't think it's impossible that they talked about okay, how can we start, how do we build this? And they're like, well, should we give them anything? Well, we're going to let them know when the movie comes out early in 2021 with the big sizzle reel. What if during F9, Vin just dropped a really little detail that we all know is going to happen? I don't know. It's just how the way it came out of the blue, it almost felt like a marketing person said, "Hey, we want you to drop the words Planet X in this interview." And he got to the end, he was like, "Oh crap, I didn't do it." And so he just like blurted it out. That may not be happening, but I don't think it's impossible that it's going on either, you know?
Tyrese heard Marvel and Sony are working together, so that's probably where holy shit, Morbius is in the MCU.
So that was the
he
next
came from
story out of this. Tyrese was asked if Morbius was in the MCU. And my guess is that Tyrese doesn't know what the MCU is. Because he immediately was like, "Oh, yeah, totally, definitely." And there was like, and then Sony within hours, like sending out like, "No, that is not correct. Tyrese is not right." Also, he gave it a new release date. He told us that it was getting pushed back from whatever January, February
October.
next year to October. And apparently that is completely incorrect as well. So like, I don't know, Rhiannon, we've talked about this in the past. It came up. I always remember Benedict Wong talking about like doing Doctor Strange 2, and he gave like a totally incorrect filming date. To me, it's just more proof that we can't totally trust these actors to really know everything that's happening.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, for this person, I mean, yes, the time that the movie is coming out is important to the talent in that movie because they're going to have to do the press tour. You know, they're contractually obligated to do some sort of press tour. But I mean, especially like Morbius, they filmed that like 2 years ago. You know, like I would be surprised if these actors remember minor plot beats unless something significant happened with them, you know, while filming or
Right.
that they enjoyed. But yeah, stop asking actors these questions that like trying to get this inside beat on like the future of the universe from some actor that you know legitimately, you know, on movies they film these movies in 6 months. If it's not the star, it was probably 3 months of their life or less. You know, there's even if they seem to be on camera for like 5 minutes, or you know, if you see them in the final product, it's not that much time on set. It's not a huge deal. um and they have a whole lot of other life and other things that they're doing in between. So yeah, I mean, I just trying to get gotcha questions out of these actors is only going to create these confusing situations.
Yeah.
Until you get to like a Hiddleston who's a producer on his show or something like that. Like, you know, those people really know what's going on. But yeah.
Well, and there's different. Some actors really care about their careers and are really into these details. I get the sense some other actors kind of wake up and they go, "Hey, agent, what do I do today?" And they're
Yeah.
like, "You go here and you do this." And he goes, "Okay, great." And he finishes his job and then goes out and parties that night. And then the next morning he calls his agent, "What am I doing today?" You know, like they do have a lot of staff that help direct things for
Jamie
him.
Foxx canceled his own Netflix show last night. Like he's like, "Yeah, screw it, I don't want to do this anymore." I am offended about gotcha questions, but I can't really say more, so I can't defend myself or
I mean,
the outlet Tyrese provided this to.
I mean, you have to ask questions. I mean, I get that, you know, it's an industry, but
Right.
I think you have to look at who you're asking what question.
Yeah.
So like,
Well,
yes,
the
there
framing
are
is
gotcha
important.
questions.
It was asked if he's in the MCU, and Tyrese said yes. So to clarify, a follow-up question was, so Morbius exists in the same franchise as the Avengers, these other so-and-so, like Falcon and Winter Soldier and stuff, to which it was a double yes. So yeah, I mean, at what, you know, I mean, you would think people know. Maybe do people not know what? Like Tyrese doesn't know who Falcon and Winter Soldier are.
Well,
You know,
Maybe.
apparently Tyrese did not understand this question. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess my thing is, so I don't blame the outlet, Adam. Like I get, to me, everyone's got to do their job, but then as consumers of media, we have to remember what people's jobs are. So like, yes, the reporter has to ask that question because that's what the readers want to know about. And if Tyrese says yes, you're going to get lots of clicks. It's going to bring in lots of revenue and attention, and it's good.
And at the same time, I mean, Michael Keaton was in the trailer, right?
Right. No, so I don't blame the reporter for asking the question. You have to. And I don't totally blame Tyrese for answering it incorrectly, because it's not really his job to know about like the inner workings of the Sony Marvel relationship and what's considered canon by the story groups. It's his job to show up and act. And so I just think as fans, you've got to be smart enough to go, is this person someone who knows this? And the way that Tyrese immediately just said yes, I was like, no, this guy does not know what's going on. You know, like he is, I'm sure in Tyrese's mind, he's like, yeah, it's a Marvel movie. Absolutely. And yeah, it's the same IP as Captain America stuff. But like, does Tyrese understand that in the mid 90s, Marvel was going under bankruptcy problems? And so they sold the rights to certain characters, and those characters are determined in part by which comic book they originally appeared in. Like, we have a lot of this nerd knowledge that normal people do not have.
And the like, is this in the same universe as the Avengers? Like, I mean, even if you're watching like the first Ant-Man, is that the same universe as the Avengers? I mean, I don't know. Do you think that side characters there, like new, you know, even like Captain Marvel, you know, do all of the actors that haven't watched like these movies, because there really are people out there that haven't watched these movies. I mean, to me, if I'm interviewing somebody from Sony and I want to know if they're in the MCU and they just offhandedly give a shocking yes, like, oh, so Tom Holland's Spider-Man shows up? Or, you know, I mean, to me, there are more direct ways to sort of check on that, but to just sort of jump straight, so it's the same world as the Avengers, and clearly he didn't know. And
I would just remind everyone at this point that Gwyneth Paltrow does not remember what movies she was in. Like that Dave Filoni, not Dave Filoni, that I'm mixing up my
Jon
Mando
Favreau.
people. That Jon Favreau thing where he's like, yeah, remember when we were in this movie together? And she's like, oh, I don't remember that. To me, that was a wonderful insight into how disconnected some of these people are from the work they're doing.
No, all Tyrese's fault. All of Sony's fault. It's all their faults.
I mean, there's also, I mean, no, I'm not, and I don't, to me, I also don't enjoy actors in projects that, you know, I think there is a clear, I think we can tell when there are actors in projects and they aren't passionate about that project, or they don't care to know anymore about, you know, those that you say, like Caleb, you know, I'm going to show up and I'm going to say my lines and then I'm going to go home and think about what's for dinner. I think you can see the difference. And I think the fandom recognizes the difference. And I think in the finished products, you recognize those differences, which, I don't know, I've ranted about this a lot with my friend, like Batman going over to DC news desk stuff here. You know, like I feel like there are so many, well, Spider-Man, you know, Tom Holland grew up wanting to be Spider-Man. There are probably thousands of actors out there that grew up wanting to be Spider-Man. You know, you should never have an actor as Spider-Man that isn't passionate about Spider-Man. You know, that because you could throw something out into a crowd and find 3 people that would die to be Spider-Man. To like turn around and cast somebody that hasn't ever read a single Spider-Man comic or watched a Spider-Man movie would be a great injustice. And I think we feel that when we see his character. So I think like as these universes grow, and now that it's at the point where every actor wants to be in some sort of comic oriented film, you're getting actors that want to be in it because they want the paycheck and they want the glory, and they, you know, they want what comes with it. They want the acclaim. And I think Elizabeth Olsen, even in one of the recent interviews, said something about, you know, having the cred from Marvel means they get the funding to do these indie projects. So it's even like a new route for indie actors. You know, you want to be in these artsy films, go get, you know, a leading Marvel role, and then you'll be able to get funding for your independent artsy stuff. Um, so I feel like as we get that, there are actors that just don't care about their information, and that shows. Yeah, and I mean like that the situation shows that type of situation. But anyways, that's
Owen Wilson was with Jimmy Kimmel this week, and I felt like that thing you're talking about, Rhiannon, was really clear there, where he said, "Oh yeah, I didn't know, I had not watched much Marvel movies. I didn't know anything about the MCU." But then later in that interview, he's like, "Well, when Marvel called, I mean, if Marvel calls, you answer the phone."
yeah.
Okay, well, how do those things work together? What he's saying is, I don't care about the content. I don't watch the movies, but I'm smart enough about the business that I understand that when the corporate entity named Marvel calls, you pay attention. And I think that really displays what you're talking about, that it's a business reality now.
Yeah. And I mean, for Mobius, yes.
cares,
I mean,
right?
how nobody grew up wanting to be Mobius.
Maybe Adam did. I don't know.
Yeah,
He's a
And
comic.
speak for yourself.
and I mean, like, I doubt Hiddleston grew up wanting to be Loki.
Right.
You know, like there's plenty of actors that have been brought into these characters that weren't passionate about it, but a lot of them caught up after they got the character. You know, there's plenty that got casting. I mean, Hiddleston is now an expert on Loki. You know, he has definitely read a few comics. He has, you know, he gave the Professor Loki speech to the writers and all of that to get them up to speed. He has caught up and now respects the fandom in that regard. You know, Sebastian Stan didn't know who the heck the Winter Soldier was or who Bucky was when he took that role. But he's embraced that there is that connection and you know, become the expert in that character. I don't fault actors taking a job because actors need jobs.
Yeah.
I don't fault any of it. I just think you can tell the difference.
Yeah. Also, if I'm Tyrese, I just say yes to everything in these interviews because I'm sure he gets asked all the time. So, is someone going to come back for Fast and Furious 10, or are you how many? Are you signed on to be in Fast and Furious 15? If I'm Tyrese, everything I'm asked, I just go, "Yep, mm-hmm, absolutely." Just watch the internet burn down every time it happens.
Just hire a good PR person to retract.
Other little bit of news we got: Silk has a showrunner, Tom Spezialy, I think it is, who worked on Watchmen as a producer, is going to showrun the Silk show. Every time I hear that something's happening with the show, I go, "Wow, that's actually happening." Like Sony talked so much about TV when they put out Spider-Verse, but here we are 3 years later and we haven't seen any fruit. But it seems like this one's really happening.
So will that had a showrunner, but apparently that was incorrect.
So where will this be? I know we went
Amazon.
through like the Sony. It'll be on Amazon. Okay.
Yeah. So
speaking of good business decisions, you should probably diversify a little bit of your portfolio, I guess. I mean, it's not like Disney also owns ABC and Hulu and Freeform and all sorts of other stuff, but whatever. If they want to kill network television, Disney can kill network television instead of putting New Warriors on Freeform. That's whatever. The show that's so good, it wrote itself out of existence. The show that was so good, that would be a perfect fit for Disney Plus, is, piss on it. We don't want this. It's just so good.
It was so good. It would have destroyed the world to be seen.
Didn't have room on the Freeform schedule. My ass. What the hell else you showing? Reruns of Whose Line Is It Anyways and some Shadowhunters bullshit.
Oh my gosh, you guys. There is a show on Freeform right now called Cruel Summer that was very good.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Smith's daughter's in it. Harley.
Yeah. That's why I ended up watching it, because Harley was in it. And I did not have regrets.
I almost dropped that in the little tirade there, but I haven't watched it, so I wanted to give it a fair shot. I didn't want to say, "What the hell, you bump New Warriors for Cruel Summer," and I haven't seen Cruel Summer. I have watched Shadowhunters, so I will kind of hop back on that train.
I love that I can say, oh, Silk has a showrunner. And Adam's brain is so in tune to New Warriors at any given moment that he can quickly draw the line to talking
I
about New
could
Warriors
draw. Give
cancellation
me two
again.
things, and I'll draw the line, man. I sit here all day. I do it professionally. Let's draw lines. Let's draw lines. Just do Daredevil. How are we going to get Daredevil and Iron Fist and Darkhawk in the new Sleepwalker series in 2 years? You want to plot that out? Let's plot that out right now. I don't know. It's Amazon. Yeah, Illuminati already said that they had a person show running it already, but they don't.
So it's
watch
almost
it
like
because guys,
Illuminati got it wrong then? No, no
almost
way.
hey man, they've been doing good. They had a lot of people gave them crap for the Elijah Wood thing. Turns out Elijah Wood is in Toxic Avenger. So
Just not
let's
as
step
the villain or whatever.
just not as the villain because Kevin Bacon is. I'll give him Phil Lord and Chris Miller have the same role on here as they did for Spider-Verse, so I don't see why not.
Yeah, I guess the weird thing about all this has been to me that like Spider-Verse came out and they had all this momentum and everyone's loving it and like people are going crazy about how great Spider-Verse is and they're like, oh, we're gonna do all this spin-off stuff. And then it just feels like it got stuck in the mud. Like, I mean, I understand there was a pandemic, but like nothing has moved in 3 years.
Animation takes incredibly slow, like super, super slow. For all we know, they could actually already have all their pieces already recorded and stuff. They probably already do,
I guess. I mean,
and
the
they're just working on
sequel,
the animation now.
the Spider-Verse sequel comes out next year, though, right?
I believe so. October next year, same date as it was on that same date as Blade that we all thought Blade was.
So I'm finding it hard to believe. Here's the weird thing about the pandemic and like that there's a Spider-Verse sequel coming out next year. Like, I feel like we had 2 years of seeing clips from the Spider-Verse movie at cons. Like by the time that movie came out, I felt like I had seen half of it. And we've seen none of that. And it's because we haven't had cons, but we've seen none of it. Which I think it is. Like normally we would see more hints that these things were coming and all of that because there would be more events for fans to get clued in.
Yeah.
There's the one, I mean, pandemic's changed. So like part of Animaniacs, the reboot, they recorded through Zoom and they used the Zoom quality in the actual show just to meet deadlines and stuff. So it's insane how you don't need to go in a sound booth and stuff.
I was about to say, Marvel News Desk, professional quality audio. That's what we're saying.
Professional quality, Disney quality. I mean, we're not the official podcast of Marvel yet? Have we got a cease and desist for using Marvel?
No, I hope not. Do we have anywhere that
it would
they
have
could
come
send
to your
mail?
address, Adam?
I was about to say, do we have anywhere that we actually receive mail? However, if they did try to contact
open
us?
up mail, it all goes in the trash. You guys open up your mail?
Like, would lawyers try to contact us via our Twitter handle, possibly? Like a message, maybe?
No, the other night somebody did say I was served, but that also went in the trash.
So,
and he was wearing Mickey Mouse ears, so maybe.
I love the idea that Disney's lawyers walk around in Mickey Mouse ears, like maybe a Donald Duck cap,
No, I'm like, why is Goofy skipping up the sidewalk? You've been served. Ah, shit. No, we're good.
I'm gonna see the pants off if you want
it. That's an idea. That's a good Disney Plus idea.
Disney
Donald Duck, attorney at law. Goofy, attorney at law.
Goofy Esquire.
Yes, Goofy Esquire. A Goofy movie 3. I plead the fifth, or Goofy movie 3.
They reboot Ally McBeal, except for Goofy is the other main character in it. All right. As we move in towards Loki stuff, Disney also made some big announcements this week that Disney Plus is moving to Wednesdays as their drop day. We talked about it ahead of time. How have you guys liked the Wednesday drops? Have they worked for you or no?
My whole world is upside down. Like when yes, it's always awesome when the show comes out on Wednesday, but when Friday comes, I get upset that there isn't a new show. It makes the week feel longer.
It does. It makes it excruciatingly long.
But I assume Disney wants people to go to the movie theaters on Thursdays and Fridays.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I don't love it because we watch our Loki with our oldest kid, but like we have a meeting that we have on Wednesdays, and so like we watch it with her at 9:30 when we're finally home and done with all of our day's stuff. But even for her age, like that's a late night. You know, my wife's nodding off by 10:30 when we're watching Loki. Like it is a little harder to squeeze it in. Hopefully summer break will make it better. I kind of wish that it was not like TVs on Wednesday and movies on Friday. I really feel like every studio should get their own day. So like I'd love to keep Star Wars on Fridays and, put Marvel on Wednesdays. And then, when they start doing Pixar shows, those can be on Tuesdays. Like to
Who
me,
the hell
that
you
makes
buried
more
on
sense.
Monday? Universal or something?
Yeah,
Sony, you get
Discovery.
Mondays. Discovery Plus. Warner
Or
Plus,
not
or
Discovery,
whatever
Nat
it is.
Geo. I'm sorry.
Nat Geo.
Yeah, if you want to watch Penguin shows, sorry, those are on Mondays.
I really hate it when people spoil the Penguin shows.
Exactly.
There are some pretty hefty.
I was about to say, I say that, but when Curse of Oak Island is out, I really kind of
What
like to
is
watch that
that?
unspoiled.
Is that
My
the
guilty
disappearing
pleasure.
Pilgrims?
Huh?
Is that the disappearing like settlers?
No, that's Roanoke Island. Oak Island is in Canada. It's a long story. I'll catch you up later.
Speaking of Canada, Funko just announced Letterkenny Pops. Pre-order the whole set. Letterkenny is the funniest comedy ever made, and I will fist fight anyone who says otherwise.
All right.
Coming next week, Letterkenny News Desk from the creators of Marvel News Desk and Sweet Tooth News Desk.
From the defector from Marvel News Desk.
We need a spinoff sometime.
The eldest daughter was like, Dad, I think I'm going to start doing Star Wars News Desk. I was like, actually, if you could do a good job of it, I think we'd be fine with that.
Guess what? We already have
awesome.
the LLC. You don't even have to go down to the attorney.
Yeah. We already own the URL, don't we?
Dude, I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows?
I know
just
we
buy
own
random
DC.
URLs.
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing.
I think we bought DC and Star Wars.
Excellent.
What about
Uh-oh,
News Desk?
Goofy's at the door again with an affidavit. All right. So Loki, episode 2. How'd you guys feel about this one? Rhiannon, last week Adam said that you would like it more. Do you like it more?
So I felt personally attacked in this episode, which
I knew this was coming. Bring it on. I'm so excited about
like-
this conversation.
So I love the concept of the variants hiding in storms. And I mean, if we had recorded this like Wednesday night, I have a lot of things I've worked through since then. But I love the idea of variants hiding in apocalypse level events. I think there's a very loose definition of apocalypse level event, but I think the logic holds well. I think it was a great idea. I love it. 5 people in a Walmart during a Cat 5 hurricane is not an apocalypse level event without warning, even in 2050, even with climate change. And don't hang out in a Walmart and think FEMA's going to come rescue you, folks. Don't do it. Don't go to a Walmart for shelter ever. Or a big box store, whether it's called Walmart or Roxcart. Okay.
Yeah, just don't go to Walmart.
See, I took some of that as like Roxxon being corporate lies, right? Like, oh no, you'll be safe. Like they're trying to squeeze some more profit margin out of these idiots before they die. You know?
Sure. Go through and justify it, like all the ways that it takes to enjoy it, but don't do it, people. As your local emergency management expert, hurricanes come with warning. I don't care how big they are, what century it is, and how bad climate change is. A Cat 5 hurricane is a climate disaster. It's like they're going through and they're like, not the climate disaster of 2048. And like, I'm sitting there watching and I'm like, what the heck would be the climate disaster of 2048? And they're like, oh, but here's a big hurricane. And I'm like, that is a climate disaster of 2048. Like, anyways, if they had just made it like a rocks cart in Oklahoma and a tornado comes through with no warning, I would have zero issues with all of this. Because if you are in a big box store during a huge tornado, yeah, it's very bad. It's very bad. Like there's like it's one of the worst places to be. Um so anyways, I just have major issues with that part of it. But so once I get past like the stuff that I know from like just my professional life, also FEMA's not going to save you. I like it. I like it.
My
I
least favorite line in that was, "Do you guys have a helicopter? Can you get us out of here?" Because
like,
a
what?
helicopter is what you want to jump
Yeah.
in when it's storming like that.
Yeah, you want to hop in a helicopter during a hurricane. I mean, it all felt to me like some people that grew up in LA were writing about Alabama. Except for they didn't give them bad Southern accents. So that was the only part that was missing. They should have just, they even got their rednecks wrong. They threw a hillbilly in when you needed a redneck. Like, you're not going to be wearing flannel and out. No, it was, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just felt to me like that was just very badly written, like, plot point there. But to the point that even like Charles Villanueva on Twitter was like, yeah, I'm hoping that they chose that so badly for a reason. Like, he's hoping that it was intentional, that this was a not real disaster or didn't really meet the criteria or something, which I don't think that's it. I think they just, most people had no issues with this. So anyways, other than that, like, I liked it. And that's where I am having, like, my biggest issues are coming from people treating these like they are something amazing and fantastic. And I'm like, it's good, solid TV, but you can't say the fights in this are magnificent when you have Loki, like that first fight where it was like two poles, like a person, and they like tap, tap, tap. Okay, fight's over. Like, I don't feel like we're getting anything epic and previously unseen, but I'm enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying the story. I love the Owen Wilson Hiddleston banter. And so far I'm still liking it.
Adam?
I got all sorts of things, but first, I feel like we can't go past the discussion of hillbillies and rednecks aren't one and the same. I
No.
feel like we should have this discussion, but I also realize we do need to talk Loki. So I will we'll put that on the side and keep that in the back pocket. Someone else bring that up in the mailbag, please, so we can talk about it in the future so we don't forget. Because we need to talk about that. Hillbillynewsdesk.com. 1 second. No,
Hillbillies live in the hills. Rednecks live in the flatlands. But
so we're all rednecks here.
Yeah, you're rednecks.
Okay. The first time they said apocalypse and like the hurricane and made the connection, I'm like, I should totally make a mock business card for Rhiannon that says apocalypse recovery expert or something. I'm like, how many apocalypses has she lived through? A zillion. She does this for a living. That's incredible.
Exactly.
No, it's super nitpicky stuff. I was under the assumption that's Lady Loki, but apparently it's not even Lady Loki according to select international credits, and it might actually be Enchantress.
Or somehow
Sylvie.
be a combo of the two,
Yeah,
maybe?
and it's here they called her the variant. There's a lot of things. There's a thing last night I saw on Reddit where the boxes on the store, PlayStation 4 controllers were on the shelf, which was kind of a peculiar choice because they built Captain Marvel's blockbuster from the ground up. But here in Roxcart, they use technology at the time would be 40 years old.
This is totally accurate, Adam. Have you tried to buy a PS5?
Yeah, I get the
PS4
jump.
is the only thing that any of us are ever going to get to use.
What's 30 years ago, there weren't even cell phones, right? Like Jerry Seinfeld had a car phone. Or, think about 40 years. So maybe technology doesn't advance, between. I mean, I thought we would have hover cars by 2025. Like Elon Musk is trying to get to the moon by 2030, and we can't even get a PS6 by 2050.
That's what the climate change disaster did. So they had the climate change disaster like a year or two before this, and that must have just retroacted all of our technology.
Right.
I mean, we have had retroactive technology, but like we used to have supersonic flights to Europe.
Also, this is to me not a substance. I mean, like, it's fine. I don't care what's
Yeah.
on the shelves. Like, people who are spending time
Totally give me
scanning the rocks on.
If we say the same thing as they place these little tiny Easter eggs, you gotta give.
See, I had that same type of issue with the TVA looking like the inside of a hotel, and then finding out the TVA was filmed in the inside of a hotel. Like everybody's going like, "Oh, look at the fabulous production that they've done," and I'm like, I look at the TVA and I see the inside of an Embassy Suites. Oh my gosh, they made the inside of a Marriott look like the inside of an Embassy Suites.
TVA Loki, presented by Howard Johnson. It's I don't know. I did love their kind of faith-based conversation almost. I think that drove everything forward just so much.
See, it's interesting because that is the thing, that conversation in the cafeteria. This episode is that to me.
Right.
Like, all these other things have completely faded in my mind. And the brilliance of Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson talking about jet skis and belief and what makes something real, to me, that is so fascinatingly, amazingly good that, like, when it comes to PlayStation 4s on the shelves, I am still too busy like thinking about what it means for someone like Mobius to love jet skis to like be thinking about what's on the shelf, if that makes any sense.
Right. And I agree with you, Caleb. And that's why I say if we had podcasted on Wednesday, I would have a completely different view. My problem is all of these little things are taking me out, and my issues are more with other fans that are out there, like Adam said, saying like, "Oh my gosh, every little thing means something."
Yeah.
No, and people going like, "Oh my gosh, Marvel is doing such an amazing job with cinematic quality and everything." Like, no, they made the inside of a Marriott look like the inside of a Marriott. Like they have, they turned a big box store into a big box store in 2048. And it is but no, I love that they had that conversation.
Right. This is the episode where Ravonna, as Mr. Mobius calls her, did seem to take a heel turn. Her earliest comments were pretty concerning. We found out Mobius has never seen the Timekeepers.
Yeah.
And how she's speaking on their behalf.
It's all fake. It's that. So the statue behind her desk, that's Jonathan Majors, isn't it? Like, am I totally making it up, or is that?
It looks similar. I forgot what's their real names. It's like Vorth and Zant, and I can't remember the third one. I had crazy, super futuristic names. But then, see, at the same time, C20 or Sasha Lane's character gave the whereabouts to where the Timekeepers were to Sylvie.
Yeah, but that's a mystery they're definitely giving us, right? Like, how does she know that is, I think, something very fascinating.
Right. So, I don't know, man. Well, I still have questions about Nexus events and all this stuff because she's took all the, what do we call them? Time bombs? Time nukes?
Yeah, reset charges.
She apparently didn't send them to where the Timekeepers are, though, because they went to various moments in time, and that's what created all that stuff. And that's the thing. I mean, I'm just trying to talk through it. It's not necessarily criticism, I'm just trying to understand what the hell's going on from here and why, if it's not Lady Loki, why Enchantress has the crown. I don't think, did Sylvie ever have a crown? I don't know.
I think the thing with the reset charges, they've euphemized them. Like, they just are bombs that obliterate people and things. Like, they just, so like, I noticed this because we were watching with our oldest daughter, and I was like, yeah, TVA is so evil, killing all those people. And she's like, well, they don't kill anybody. They just reset the timeline. I'm like, no, sweetheart, they're killing all those people.
Yeah.
Like, reset the timeline is a nice, clean way to say kill billions of people.
Right.
And now I'm not sure if it's billions anymore. I'm not sure how localized those are, but like, certainly it seems like she sent these various reset charges to different points in history, and they're going to remove people from the timeline that will create,
Right.
create
Well,
new
it's got-
branches, right?
It's got to be billions. It's got to be because they take away that whole timeline, and that
Right.
replicates over and over and over and over. So Sylvie or the variant just created all sorts of stuff.
So I do think we need to talk about her. Like, so we've thought it's Lady Loki. At this point, though, I don't know if I've seen that on social media so much that I'm jumping to it too quick. And they did say she was a Loki from the TVA, and she has the Loki horns. But then when he calls her Loki, she's very clear that she does not want to be called Loki. And then there was a weird line where he said, like, I would never do this to myself. And then in the credits, as you said, she's called Sylvie, which is like a connected name to the Enchantress. It makes me think that her identity is a little more complicated than just, oh, she's a girl Loki from another universe. Like, I feel like there's more going on that they're trying to hint at. Did you guys feel that at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly I didn't feel that way until I saw in the Slack chat that the credits kind of spoiled the identity, and maybe it's inaccurate or somehow. I would doubt it's inaccurate.
Okay, so here's the little wormhole that I went, or the rabbit hole that I went down. If they are from the sacred timeline, if they are from the approved timeline from the Timekeepers, the Loki from that timeline will look like Hiddleston's Loki. If they look like anybody else, they're from a different timeline. Except Loki's a shapeshifter, so he can look like whatever he wants to look like. So I think there are two paths here. Either there's already multiverses out there, and the Timekeepers are just ignoring them, and the TVA, like, okay, we're focusing on the sacred timeline and its branches, but there actually are multiverses out there. Their TV screen is only 6 inches big, so they can only see this one, but there's already, all the branches out there. They just don't fight, or I don't know, or this is Hiddleston Loki doing shape-shifting things just to sort of stay away from the Timekeepers, and chose at some point after, and who knows how many thousands of years he's been running from the time, or planning the Timekeeper run, or she's been running from the Timekeepers, or planning whatever is being planned. Anyways, so if this is actually Loki, there is a little bit of logic to be like worked through there, like why choosing. I feel like in that same rabbit hole, Loki was very careful to talk about the duplication casting versus the illusion casting. So I wonder if there isn't going to be something to play with. I mean, the trickery that if this is a Loki, this Enchantress, whatever, if the lady that we saw at the end of this episode is a Loki with, okay, yeah, we got to do lots of like changing how we look and everything to keep up this really big plan that we're doing. So I have a question for you guys. With the illusion casting versus the duplication casting, when we saw Loki pop into Ragnarok, when he popped into the little prison area, the circular prison, to talk to Thor, was that duplication casting or illusion?
So I've been thinking,
right?
Yeah, so I've been
I think
thinking a
it's
lot
illusion.
about this. I think you're talking about Avengers, right?
No, I'm talking about Ragnarok.
Oh, Ragnarok.
Sakaar and
In Sakaar.
Freaky Circle.
Yeah.
Loki goes to talk to him and stuff, and Thor ends up chucking the
He throws at
oil
the
can
rocks
at
at
the
him.
hand or something. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So to me, it's always illusion if it can be passed through,
Mm-hmm.
and it's duplication if there's physicality to it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is important because we just watched Thor: The Dark World, and there's a scene where Malekith, or one of the bad guys, stabs Loki with like a big old knife, and we think he dies. And it always bothered me that based on the illusion stuff he was doing, that when that knife went through, it should just pass through him, like when Thor passes through him in Avengers, right? Remember the tumble box they had on the helicarrier, and Thor launches at him and he goes straight through the illusion and then falls into that prison cell. And so it always bothered me, how does Malekith stab him? But if that's a multiplication that has a physical body, then that's how Malekith is able to stab him. So that to me is the answer: is if they are touched, can they be touched and interacted with physically, or are they just passed through?
So, and I think they took a lot of care to go through and explain that to us. So I think that's going to be critical as we go forward, as far as Loki's. So can Loki send a duplication to the TVA to get pruned while he's actually doing whatever somewhere else?
Right. No, it's really interesting, and it also cleans up some Loki history. Like they're like cleaning up plot holes from movies that came out 10 years ago at this point.
It isn't it crazy how Disney can fill or like make $1 billion off of Norse mythology, and at the same time they're doing whatever they can to rewrite the copyright laws so they nobody can ever do it with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
5,000 years down the line.
So
That's
what I find
hashtag screw the man tweet.
what I think is really interesting, you talk about that mythology thing, and I know there's a lot of debate about this. We're about to get Jane Foster as Thor, right? And so there's this thing about, is Thor a name or is it like a title? And there's a sense that Jane is Thor when she has Mjolnir, because in some degree Thor is a title. Or does that make sense?
Well, I mean, DC Comics has a Thor, you know.
Well, no, I mean, no, I'm not worried about the copyright. I'm saying like within universe, whoever wields Mjolnir has the power of Thor. So Thor is like Thor's name, but it also is kind of a role.
Yeah, it's weird because Thor is Captain America, and Thor's also Thor Odinson, right? So it's the moniker and the
so
name.
I'm thinking Loki is the same way. I think this variant Loki is from a timeline where Loki and Enchantress are in a relationship, and he is killed or has to abdicate his role, and so she becomes Loki to fill the role of the god of mischief. So she has sort of the mantle of Loki, but she's actually Enchantress, and her name is Sylvie and all these other things. And that's why she is a Loki, but she doesn't like to be called Loki.
Interesting.
I'll allow it.
It also seems that mind power thing she has is, we've never seen our Loki do this, right? Like we've never seen
swapping
him
bodies
with the scepter.
Well, yeah, he had with the stone, but never by like touching. This is more like a Scarlet Witch thing, right? Where she touches their temples and like kind of takes over their mind.
Yes, but it was green, so it wasn't Scarlet Witch. It was Loki because it was
a different
chaos
green.
magic.
Can we please?
Chaos
can we get our chart yet, Marvel?
Yeah.
What are our magic?
Trickery
what are the
magic.
Colors?
Tricky magic.
I mean, I just sort of assumed that this variant had the scepter, had like eaten the scepter. I don't know.
The stone is infused into their power set.
Yes.
Which means if they ever capture her, she can't do it at the TVA, which would be very important.
Right.
If it's Infinity Stone based, it wouldn't work at the TVA, I think.
Also, if Loki is a shapeshifter and his magic doesn't work at the TVA, why doesn't he look blue when he's at the TVA?
This is a very good question. That's the best plot hole question I've heard yet.
That is a very good question. Excellent question. That's going to drive me nuts. Holy crap. Why'd you bring that up?
That you guys have been bringing this up. Yeah.
Unless, is it Odin's magic that makes him look that way? And if so, like, is Odin's magic still work in the TVA as long as he's not in the TVA?
The only answer that I've gotten that's just like how I go to sleep at night is he was in that form when he was taken into the TVA.
So he stays.
So he was
Yeah.
just like like his shape shifting, he was physically in that form.
Yeah.
Therefore it stayed. So I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Like
I wonder. We haven't really got any surprises yet, though, have we? I mean, they tease surprise characters. Is the variant supposed to be our surprise? Are we going to get an Idris Elba? Are we going to get Anthony Hopkins, Hemsworth?
Well, so the other thing we have not talked about, there is another Mobius agent who apparently Ravonna works with and is somehow hinted at by a FDR middle school pen or high school. I don't remember.
Oh, I thought he was just being
Yes.
sarcastic.
no.
No, she has another agent that works, and Mobius apparently does not like them. And she has that pen from the other agent that was FDR middle school or high school.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, hey, it might be another engineer situation, right? Where they don't mean
Right.
this as a big thing, but it felt like a clue that somebody else is around. And, there's sort of the interesting question of like, could Cap have worked for the TVA? Like once he gets the experience of putting away the times, all these different stones and popping in and out of timelines, could there be a Steve Rogers somewhere that like works for the TVA? Maybe he makes a deal that he will work for the TVA from time to time if they overlook him creating a branch by going back to Peggy. I can't imagine Chris Hemsworth or Chris Evans returning for this show, but
Right. Maybe. I mean, and that news came out right when Loki was filming.
And it's the sort of thing that I'm okay with Chris Evans lying to me if it's about that.
But at the same time, Deadline, during the Cap 4 report, Deadline says they are developing Chris Evans' return separate from Cap 4. So
Right.
It's made it sound like it's still in the works and it's like Nomad or some.
Well, I didn't understand though. Did they say that they are developing his return as a separate thing, or were they saying that this is not the same as the rumored return of Chris Evans?
I think they said developing it separately. So, you could take that to mean Loki as well, I guess.
Yeah. All right. One other thing
is nuts if we don't get like a Kang. Just say Kang. That's all they need to do. Just say Kang in a post-credit scene, or give us the Thanos head turn or something. Man. I don't know. It seems weird.
One other thing I wanted to talk about that was really interesting was, so when they get an alert, I had thought of the TVA as existing outside of time, but that's not really true, because when they get an alert about a branching timeline, they have so long to fix it before it goes past the red line. And we get the sense that they cannot just keep going back to the moment that branch started to trim it. They've got one shot at trimming it before it gets beyond the red line. And they also talked about how the end of time is not yet written and the timekeepers are working at writing what the end of time looks like, which suggests that the TVA is existing linearly. And it's almost like it's really complicated. It makes me think the MCU from a TVA perspective happened a long time ago in the past. And so that's why they can go back to it. But they are living in the future of the MCU before the end of the universe or the multiverse. Does this make sense? Like they are linear. The fact that like they went to Wisconsin and they had to trim that line in so many minutes means that they are stuck in a linear time, just the same as Loki. It's just, it's a different linear time than the main universe. Did any of that make a bit of sense?
I smell what you're stepping in, man. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense because the timekeepers, and their whole deal at the end of time and the creation of Immortus and all that stuff.
Or maybe there is a certain point where they can't prevent there from being a ton of multiverses, and they're still trying to figure out what the sacred timeline is. And they're just maybe we really are at the point they can't get to the end of time because the timekeepers are sticking to the sacred timeline, and evidently the sacred timeline is the one that doesn't have the multiversal war. If we assume it wasn't all BS in the first episode, and the sacred timeline is the one that doesn't lead to the big multiverse war. So maybe there's a point where they just simply cannot discern a sacred timeline, that it's like absolutely unavoidable that everything breaks out into the multiverse. And maybe that's actually where we are.
It's also insane that this show's using timelines and universes interchangeably. It doesn't make
That's
sense.
not
It makes
insane.
all the sense
It makes
in the
all the
world,
sense, Adam.
What do you mean it makes all this? It's insane.
Rhiannon's on Team Caleb.
I've
It's-
always been
it's
on that
insane.
team.
So you're saying only universes can't have multiple timelines? It doesn't make...
As I've said from the
It makes all
beginning,
the
if
sense.
they are not rooted in a common ancestor, right? If they don't go back in time to one singular point, then there is no way by physical medium to go through, like quantum realm and all that stuff. It only works if they're using these timelines to go back and then back over to the universes. If they are made of separate bits of matter, there's no scientific way to connect them.
Scientific, we're talking as if it's real?
I think
mean,
Marvel
are we
has always felt like their sci-fi should have some degree of reality to it. Yes.
Some degree of reality to chaos.
That's why they
magic.
hire quantum scientists to like talk about their time travel.
Still not buying it, man. Still not. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I guess what I would say is part of the reason I feel this way, I do have some argument for it, in that they have had opportunities to have truly what we'd call magic, or to have elements that were truly divorced from any sort of scientific explanation. And they had it with Thor and they had it with Doctor Strange. And in both of those circumstances, they made the specific choice to tell us explicitly, you call it magic, we call it science, but it's really just science that you don't understand.
So come Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, when all this stuff goes to hell inevitably, and Wanda goes to get Billy and Teddy back from Earth 2. Earth 2 is going to have had to existed for 60 plus years or whatever from when it originally branched off. So
or
at the same
for that
time,
matter, Adam, it could have branched off 6 billion years ago because one asteroid hit to the left instead of to the right.
so what happens in these other branches? So do these branches also branch off, or do Nexus events not work on Earth 2?
Oh no, they should branch off exponentially as well. Yeah. And that's how you get a universe that's truly weird, like a dark dimension or something, is that everything went wrong 5 quadrillion times at branch points.
Sure. Okay. So timelines are universes. So the
Absolutely.
sacred timelines are
Well,
universe. And,
I would say more
and
specifically,
1974 is
a universe is what the world is like down the road from a branch. And so, yes, they're universes, but they don't feel different. If, the universe where Loki is talking to the Mongolian people in the beginning of Loki episode 1, it's a different universe, but it's not functionally different. The only thing that's different is that Loki has the Tesseract. Like, there's only one thing that's different. You have to branch off a long time ago to make it truly feel like a different universe with different characters and designs and geography and all that kind of stuff.
So there's no need for, what's the Richards kid's name? Nathaniel, right? Nathan?
Oh yeah, that would be an issue,
So
the way he
there's
does
no,
things.
yeah, there's no use for him.
Unless you say that his power when he creates a universe is that he's actually creating a divergence point billions
And
of
all
years in the
all
past.
he's doing is using like a TVA clicker. And he's like, look at me. My powers is I can use this mid-century clicker to make all sorts of new timelines.
Listen, for me, when you see Doctor Strange and you're about to open the astral plane and the crazy mystery tour that Ancient One wants to set him up on, you have a chance to go totally into mysticism. And she goes, well, you have to understand, casting a spell is the same thing as doing an MRI. They're just different ways to look at the same reality. That is trying to ground all their mysticism in science.
And that's
So
why
Marvel,
they operate
you're
out of
telling
the
me
Marriott.
Marvel Studios is still making stuff grounded? Miss me with that stuff.
That's
just
why
went
they
through so
film in a
much, came with
Marriott.
that
That's why the
bullshit.
TVA looks like a
So
Marriott.
if you go back and look at the first Spider-Man Homecoming trailer, there's a shot with Vulture in that same Marriott. Like that elevator column,
Yeah,
you
sure.
know? Yeah.
Sure.
They almost have used this place several times for an MCU thing.
And I'm sure I've been in it. I mean, to me, it's a classic Embassy Suites design, but I must have been at this Marriott at some point.
Yeah.
Dragon Con. They have Dragon Con there.
I've never gone to Dragon Con
Or Dragon Con.
or drinking. I've been to Mardi Gras, Caleb.
No. I was teasing Adam's accent. Dragon Con.
Oh, I'm not. I just went through this with someone
Dragon.
else. No,
I thought you
we're
said
not going
drinking
with the
con.
dragon.
So
What? So it's not. So what? It's the Y. I put a Y in Dragon.
no, so your AGs, you do it on all your AGs. You lengthen the A before a G. So I say Agatha,
Dragon.
you say Agatha.
I don't say Agatha.
You
Agatha.
do. I have a ton of examples on a podcast that I've recorded where you said Agatha. Dragon instead of dragon. It's lengthening of the A before a G.
That's not. That's we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Dragon.
I'm not criticizing or saying it's
Dragon.
bad. I'm just saying that you do say it differently than I do.
This timeline bullshit's got me worked up. Cut the cameras. It's stupid. It's silly.
All right. Do you guys have any other Loki stuff before I check the mailbag real quick?
Nope.
No.
All right. See if we got comments here. Pull up Twitter too. By the way, it seemed like some people really did like the food episode, which makes me very happy. We didn't go through the mailbag last week, but like, I never know how to pronounce it. Is it Zhao, the guy from Brazil that works with Charles?
I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Because it's spelled the same way they spell San Paulo, right? Like there's like a thing in Portuguese, I think, where that almost has an N. We don't know how to say your name. I feel very bad. But anyway, he was just saying that he was real excited about the idea of a Mochi and Noki show. So
yeah, I thought about you guys when I made gnocchi this week.
Ooh.
Oh, and not make gnocchi, but like opened up a thing of pre-made gnocchi
And put it in the
pan.
boiling water. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Over on the website, Love Waffle theory time. Here we go. Love Waffle's got a theory. The other Loki at the end of the episode is going to be a female Loki. That is correct. Why would they put the character in a shadow like that? If it was Tom Hiddleston. From a universe the TVA destroyed because Loki is not a woman in the sacred timeline. Oh, that would be interesting. So like the TVA is like just being sexist. Like Loki is supposed to be a man. And so the fact that this Loki had a different gender, they're like suppressing her for her gender. That's interesting. This ends up characterizing the TVA's dogma as a form of intolerance. They're literally hunting down just because she's a woman. Loki's end up working together to reclaim their lives from the TVA. The TVA amends the timeline to determine Loki should never have existed, and they rescue a version of Kid Loki who they're trying to kill before he can turn into the first version of Loki in the sacred timeline.
I would say
I
like
this.
Loki being stuck in the 50s, like all of the motif of the TVA being in the 50s, and then it being that they're all stuck in the 50s mindset of women would have a little like synergy, I guess. Yeah, but
I think the only thing against it is they have very specifically given women equal roles as like officers and people who do physical things and in roles of authority. Like TVA seems pretty egalitarian so far.
The biggest person holding back women are other women in the workplace, or
go.
Commonly in the workplace, women are held back by other women.
Did you just watch a webinar on that or something, or what?
I actually spout that BS without having to study up. I actually, I have a lot to say about women in the workplace that doesn't come up on the podcast.
For that,
Love
check out Women in the Workplace News Desk.
Love Waffle also says, I don't know, maybe the show's going to end with Loki apprehending the other Loki and giving the TVA a big speech about how they should do better and not call her a time variant while not doing anything to ensure that actually happens. It's hard to tell with these Disney Plus shows. I think that was kind of a hit, a shot at Falcon and Winter Soldier, that you just end the season with a big conversation.
The finales are kind of
I love it.
With TV cameras even, or Miss Minutes standing by watching that naked robot guy that makes everyone naked. Why didn't they get a name? Why didn't that robot get a name? They made funny faces.
Over on Twitter, somebody at Sucker, Adam was talking about our podcast after one of your tweets blew up a little bit. And he said, I didn't know that Adam starred in a podcast. Well, at least for one more week. At least for one more week he does.
I don't even have top billing rights, Tucker. I mean, come on, man.
Adam graces us with his presence on Caleb's podcast.
Yeah, this is Caleb's show.
Oh, no.
It's Caleb News Desk. I have 20 domains to buy. I have newsdesk.com in my card right now.
I wondered when Adam would start with all of his comicbook.com fame, bringing in new listeners. So Adam, maybe you should talk about us more. Maybe not.
I've been meaning, I'm trying to work some magic and trying to build us into something. I don't know where I'm going with this.
Adam keeps trying to get us to get real press credentials.
I'm just trying. Yeah, I'm just saying if you guys, it might be there if you guys want it there.
All right.
We should do more guests though. We should. I've been trying to kind of pay attention to see who tweets about Loki and stuff. And
I have loved all the guests that we have had. I mean, I've loved the type of guests that we've had on the rare occasions that we've done it.
Yeah.
We should catch up with Emiak Walker sometime. He just got cast in a pretty big movie. Was it Bullet Train maybe? With Brad Pitt or something.
Only other thing I'm finding on Twitter, at Cinema Joe's sent us a funny comic panel about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So you guys can see that. It's too long to explain, but you can see that on our Twitter at Marvel News Desk.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What a show that was. It used to be canon and no longer is. Sorry.
All right. Does that do it, guys? Is that all we got?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I figure we'll be back here next week for Loki 3. It's really interesting. Tom Hiddleston told the BBC that the show takes a real weird, crazy turn in episodes 4 and 5. So it makes me think episode 3 is going to tread water, but that's maybe a cynical way to look at that comment. But I'm fascinated to see where we go. So we will be back to talk about Loki. Thanks for supporting the show, guys. Thanks to our patrons, patreon.com/Marvel News Desk. If you want to help the show continue to exist. Thanks for listening, sharing with your friends, and we'll see you guys later.
Why don't you go out?